Hi, I'm Raphael O'Leah.
And I'm John Jackson, and welcome to the Mancave.
It was an incredible wildcard round of the 2016 NFL playoffs. For the first time, all four home teams lost their respective matchups. That, however, would take a backseat to the events that would unfold this past weekend. From a 30-0 shutout in NRG Stadium to a 25-year playoff winless streak that was a minute and 36 seconds from coming to an end. And let's not forget the missed 27-yard field goal that sent Vikings fans home in tears. This wildcard weekend was certainly one to remember. John, why don't you take it? Kansas City at the Houston Texans.
What a game. Or what lack of a game there was there, because there was no game there. That was a trash... They destroyed them. The Kansas City Chiefs, 30 points. The Houston Texans, 0. This is a playoff game, folks. A playoff game.
They just didn't show up.
They didn't show up. I mean, well, look at their quarterback. It all starts there. Brian Hoyer, 4 interceptions, a lost fumble, to have 5 turnovers for the whole day for the Houston Texans. Really just a disgrace of a game. Not entertaining whatsoever. The owner of the Texans said, we need a franchise quarterback. We need one. They really did. You cannot go into the playoffs with the Brian Hoyer. I'm sorry, but you cannot. And that wasn't a game. They didn't put up a fight. All the other games, they were either close matches, or at least some point of the game, it was interesting. The beginning of this game, Niall Davis returned the kick for 106 yards. By the time he got to the 30 or 40 yard line, there was no defenders.
Their own 30-yard line.
Their own.
He didn't have to break a tackle.
This is the playoffs.
He ran through a hole and he was gone. It was incredible. That set the stage for how the rest of the game would go.
Oh yeah, I mean there was no comeback at any point. There were some times when you thought, the Texans were getting close. Maybe they'll make this close.
Maybe Brian Hoyer will throw a completion this time.
But it was a better chance that he would throw an interception.
That's how the game went. Now let's move on to a game that had the exact opposite tone.
Oh yeah. Oh, exactly.
Pittsburgh at the Cincinnati Bengals. A game where Pittsburgh hoped that after 25 long years, they could finally win a playoff game. They did not have Andy Dalton. They instead had A.J. McCarron, who has experience playing in big games, as you know, from Alabama.
Yeah.
He had championship experience. So they were hoping that he would be their chance. That's not the way it looked after the first half. Cincinnati failed to put up a point in the first half of play, and we thought that Pittsburgh would, in fact, take that game. However, Cincinnati would come back, score 16 points, lead 16-14 with a minute and 26 to go from Pittsburgh's 20-yard line. From Pittsburgh's 20-yard line in what we were sure was the game being over. And then Jeremy Hill, on a run to the inside, fumbles the ball. A minute 36 to go, fumbles the ball, and all of a sudden, Pittsburgh has a chance to win this game. They would march down the field, left with no timeouts, at about Cincinnati's 40-yard line, out of field goal range, time winding down, and 2 terrible, terrible penalties would bring them into field goal range, where they would win that game, 18-16. We need to talk a little bit about those penalties.
Look. You haven't won a playoff game in 25 years. I don't care what emotions you have, give it up. Give your fans a chance. Those fans were going crazy. They were throwing stuff on the field.
It was an insane game.
They were so emotional, the fans, and rightfully so. 25 years, they're 0-7 in the playoffs with this head coach, Marvin Lewis.
Yeah.
0-7. I mean, that's ridiculous. That is ridiculous.
And they got so close to it. A minute 26.
Yeah.
From Pittsburgh's 20.
It's crazy.
20. If he didn't fumble that ball, they had a field goal, it would have been a touchdown game, and they weren't going to score a touchdown, no matter what. Pittsburgh wasn't going to score a touchdown. They had the game. And you know what? I'd venture to say they had the game won even after that fumble. Because even after that fumble, they had no timeouts, and they were at the 40. It was those two penalties that really... That's what lost them the game. Vontaze Burfict, you can't have that happen. That hit was a terrible hit. You could really hurt somebody with that hit. And I get it. That hit on Bernard was a bad hit as well. Referees didn't call it. That started what would be an emotional game. But that hit can't happen in that situation.
You gotta hold your emotions back at this point. You gotta get the win. Right now, do they feel better that they got those penalties because they let their emotions go crazy? They did what they wanted to do. But was that worth losing a playoff game? Letting all your fans down? Letting your head coach down? A guy who would have, for the first time, been 1-6 in the playoffs, which is still atrocious, but much better than 0-7 in the playoffs.
And they had a team that could have made it to the Super Bowl. Yeah. One of the better Cincinnati Bengal teams we've seen.
Possibly one of the best out of this 0-7 stretch.
Definitely. And now Vontaze Burfict facing a suspension beginning next year. He is, of course, appealing, and we'll see how that develops. Next, we had Seattle versus the Minnesota Vikings.
Another game that, very interesting. Now, it was freezing. One of the coldest games in NFL history.
Kickoff was -6 degrees.
It got warmer, though. It was 0 degrees at one point of the game. That was towards the end, though. That's when the offense started picking up. But it was really, really cold. And, you could say whatever you want to say. It's hard to even hold the football when it's that cold.
It affects the game.
It definitely affects the game.
These guys aren't superhuman. They're human beings. The cold affects them.
Yeah, the final was 10-9. Seattle won. But at the end of the game, everybody knew that the Vikings were going to win. They were lining up for a field goal to win the game, 27 yards.
A chip shot.
Easy, automatic. The kicker, Blair Walsh, kicks it. The laces were out. It was held, laces out. He didn't make it wide left.
Wide left.
Almost.
I thought it was blocked, to be honest. The way
it was terrible. This is a 27-yarder. That's a chip shot. It should have won in easily.
And we've seen the reactions of the Vikings fans.
Oh, terrible.
And rightfully so. They are not a winning football team. They had a great team this year.
Yeah.
And despite what we thought coming into the game, that is not the way they should have lost the game.
Not at all.
If they were going to lose, that was not the way they should have lost. Personally, I called for the blowout by Seattle. I was admittedly wrong. I thought that if it was a close game, that's the game Minnesota wins. For Seattle to have won that game, I felt that it had to be a blowout, or else Seattle would not have won that game. That's not the game I thought Seattle would win, and that's definitely not the game Minnesota wanted to lose.
Not at all. 27-yarder, missing it. It's terrible. Vikings fans everywhere, they're just...
disbelief.
It's so depressing in Vikings land. But moving on to the next game.
In what I feel is the most boring because of the lack of storylines, Green Bay at the Washington Redskins. We had a basic consensus that Washington would win this game. Dimitri Mikas, the only one who predicted Green Bay would win. Green Bay offensive line... they held it together that game.
Yeah.
They were able to hold it together. They started the first quarter without a point after that safety. The Redskins were up 5-0 in the first quarter. That was the only time the Redskins would be up in that game. Green Bay blew up after that first quarter, and they ended up scoring 35 points, winning that game 35-18, and finally calling it a sweep for the away teams for the first time in NFL history in the wild card round. Incredible, right?
Very incredible. Home field advantage didn't play much of a factor.
Did not play a factor.
Played the opposite factor.
And with the storylines, it was truly a wild card weekend. Okay, so now let's move on to Alabama-Clemson in the college football championship game. You want to start us off?
Yeah, so we had a good game. This was a very close game, unlike some of the other bowl games that we saw on New Year's. 45-40, Alabama wins yet again. That's their fourth time in the last 7 years.
Incredible.
Nick Saban now, 5 championships.
2 away from being
one away.
1 away from tying.
From tying,
2 away from being the winningest coach in college football history in terms of championships, which is incredible. Congratulations to him.
Yeah.
He's one heck of a coach.
Amazing coach.
One of his most daring moves of the game actually came with 10 minutes and 34 seconds to go in the fourth. After Alabama had just tied the game at 24, he calls for an onside kick. They were in regular kickoff formation, so no one really saw it coming. Calls an onside kick, which is successful, giving Alabama the ball. They would score that drive, and it would be Alabama from then on. Yeah. Incredible. Do you think people would look at him a little more odd if that had not panned out in his favor?
I think it would depend on if Alabama won or not. I think people would have forgot it if he missed and they won. But if he missed and they lost, especially due to the onside kick, he would have had a lot of questions to answer.
Definitely.
The fact that he got it was amazing. The fact that he tried it with 10 minutes and 34 seconds in the fourth quarter, that's amazing too.
It shows his experience, his expertise, and his trust in his team.
Yeah, really.
His trust in his kicker. Because that was a great kick. That was an incredible kick. You have to have faith in your team if you're going to pull something like that.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, it worked out for him. Another big story. Watson, the quarterback for Clemson, finished third in the Heisman voting, and he had an incredible game.
Absolutely.
Passing for 405 yards and 4 touchdowns. And still unable to hold that championship trophy.
It's terrible for him. Terrible. I mean, that's an excellent showing that he gave.
Incredible.
I mean, just outstanding, yet he lost. And that's what he said. It doesn't matter. He says, stats don't matter to me, he said. Mm-hmm. You know, we wanted to win. It's something we didn't do in 34 years. So he doesn't care that he had such a good game. He's just disappointed that they lost. And it's not his fault. It was the defense.
No secondary.
No secondary
whatsoever. On
either
either side of the ball, I would venture to say that Clemson had less so because they were able to stuff the run.
Yeah, a lot. They were good. Yeah, pretty decent. At points. At points, they were really good.
Yes, but unable to stop the big passing plays, and that's what really hurt them that game. It's a championship game, and their secondary just didn't show up. That cost them. Mm-hmm. But you made a good point. 34 years since Clemson has won a college football championship. Alabama, once again, this is their 4th in 7 years. So it's a storyline. It's a very big storyline. We want to thank you guys for listening. Tune in tomorrow where we're going to discuss our divisional round of our NFL playoff predictions. Once again, I'm Rafael Elia.
And I'm John Jackson, and this has been the Man Cave.